Hey, everybody, we are going to talk real estate. I did a video last week about the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, the settlement, and how it could affect some of my favorite real estate companies to follow, specifically Zillow, Redfin, and Opendoor. I wanted to take a closer look at Zillow, though, because it's the one I really called out as having a negative effect on. And the more I thought about it, it's not quite so black and white. It's not all a negative or all a positive. So Tyler's joining me today to keep me honest here, and we're going to go through all the pros and cons of the deal of the settlement on Zillow. Before we do, please take a minute and check out the link you see on your screen. It's fool.com/Frankel. It's a message from my sponsor, The Motley Fool. It's the best way to support this work we're doing, and you can get the top 10 stocks to buy right now. Again, that's fool.com/Frankel. So I did say that Zillow is going to be one of the more affected real estate stocks by this decision. Just to kind of quickly catch you up, I'll give you the short version, then I'll kick it over to Tyler. The National Association of Realtors settled a lawsuit that alleged price manipulation, essentially by forcing the home seller to pay the commission to both the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. It was creating artificial demand for buyer's agents and propping commissions up. So now, as part of the settlement, they're agreeing not to do that anymore. They're not going to have the seller list a buyer's agent commission right in the listing as a condition to be on the MLS, which has been the case for decades now. The effect of this is that buyers will have to now pay their agents out of their own pocket, go without an agent, or specifically ask the seller to pay their agent's commission for them. That's a big change and probably the biggest overhaul to the real estate commission structure in decades. So with Zillow, this could affect Zillow's business in good ways and bad ways, right? And I want to get into the bad ways a little bit later on. The obvious thing is that Zillow makes most of its money from real estate agents, who, if they're making lower commissions, aren't going to be having enough money as much money to pay for services. But there are also some potential positives. And Tyler, what do you think could be a positive effect on Zillow?
Well, from the that's a kind of a loaded question because it's asking the Zillow of today or the Zillow that Zillow hopes to be a couple of years from now. And since we're taking the positive side of it, let's look at the Zillow a couple years from now or who they want to be. And it's a lot around like this super app idea, which I don't know, for it to me it's kind of been a wishy-washy idea. You hear it and you're like, well, we're going to be this point, a touch point for every step of the process, which never really sounded like it made a lot of sense. It's like, the seller agent, you're still selling, leads to sellers agents and whatnot. And it was hard to really quantify how this exactly worked. But with this settlement, there is this kind of realm where Zillow and some others, but we can get into that in another time. But where Zillow can basically step up and say, if a customer can basically see everything on the MLS and can see who the seller's agent is rather than the buyer's agent, there's almost like this incentive where you could just go absent a seller's agent. And with this super app idea of being able to guide you through all of the steps of escrow, title, insurance, obtaining a mortgage, kind of doing all of those steps that the seller's agent has been doing, um, and basically doing it as a fee or a much smaller commission, where you, the seller, pays that, or the buyer, excuse me, pay that. Again, this is just kind of like creative stuff coming out of my head. This isn't exactly where Zillow is going, but it could be like this concept that makes a lot of sense and seems to tie into what Zillow has been hinting at with this super app. And this settlement kind of paves the way to, like, I don't know, kick the industry in the pants enough to make this much more lucrative than under the prior model. Everything was just kind of moving along the way it was. And there was a lot of people who are like, well, we don't want this to happen because I'm getting my 3% on the sale. That Why do I want to change? So I think with this shakeup, there is this, you could see a path to this happening. I'm not saying this is exactly how Zillow is going to do it, but you can see it, right? It's like, I don't know, seeing the finished house, even though it's still just a framework of timber.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. And it's important to mention that not all of Zillow's business is going to be negatively affected by this, right? Just for example, Zillow makes about 20% of its money from rental listings, which this really doesn't have much of an effect on. Zillow makes a lot of money from sellers agents or listing agents, which are still going to be a thing. If you hire a listing agent, you're still going to pay them a commission to sell your home. That's, it, I mean, I'm sure realtor friends of mine are going to comment negatively about this part of the video, but I would argue that it's tougher to sell a home by yourself than it is to buy one without an agent. You could buy one by hiring a real estate lawyer, and if especially with all the online tools available, which is kind of the argument you're making, where this, if the super app's available. But, and I'm going to use this to pivot to the negatives here, and I was shocked to kind of find this out. 48% of Zillow's revenue, total revenue, comes from the buy side of transactions. The sell side of transactions, their seller agent business, only makes up 12% of their total revenue. Um, 13% of their revenue, if you're curious, is from new construction, software services, things like that. And only 5% comes from their mortgage business. Roughly half of their revenue is the buy side of real estate transactions. So that's why I say, and you made a great point, the Zillow of today, that percentage has been falling. It was well over 50% came from the buy side for the longest time. Buyers agents trying to find customers on Zillow's platform that are looking for houses and getting clients that way, and then paying Zillow for that. So if that percentage continues to drop and the super app really kind of ramps up, this could end up not being that big of a deal for Zillow. But with the Zillow of today, I could see their revenue taking a hit, which, by the way, this stuff all goes into effect in July. So I could see them kind of taking a hit in the near term.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what I was hinting at with the Zillow today versus what Zillow wants to be, because Zillow today is just a lead gen mechanism for buyers agents, and which you hinted at on the revenue side, and so it is that possibility or that future of what Zillow might be able to do doesn't come at a painless process. The idea that you could lose a significant amount of revenue from lead gen on the buyer side is substantial, and it is going to kind of be a little bit of a I don't know, we could call it a moment of crossing the Rubicon here. But you know, I you could also argue, and look, this is just trying to hash it out from all the different angles. I'm trying to present everything that's possible. There's this the sky is falling kind of moment for real estate agents, but there's a legitimate chance that things don't look a heck of a lot different than they do today. It's just that the buyer's agent price is listed and the actual buyer pays it. And if that is indeed the case, then we're buyers agents are still going to have to generate leads, and they're still going to pay for leads if they are high quality leads. And that's been Zillow's bread and butter for a long time, is lead generation for the buyer side. And so if you wanted to make the argument that it's like, well, not much is going to change, we're going to be fine. The argument that, you know, the lead gen side is going to still make money, maybe a little bit less, but it's not going to be oh my god, the buyer's side lead gen side of this business is absolutely dead. That might be a little presumptuous.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap it up, Zillow actually said in their annual report, and this is a quote: "If agent commissions are meaningfully impacted, it could reduce the marketing budgets of real estate partners or reduce the number of real estate partners participating in the industry, which could adversely affect our financial condition and results of operations." So, in other words, Zillow's worried about it, and as they should be. But the question is, where do they go from here? I have a small position in Zillow. I don't know if you're a shareholder, Tyler, but I have a small position in Zillow still. And I gotta be honest, I considered maybe moving into the sell bucket when I heard this news. but I mean, I like the valuation. I like that how much cash they have. We've talked about Zillow's, they have a great balance sheet. Both of us will acknowledge that. And I want to see what they have, their kind of response to this is. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to click subscribe if you don't subscribe to my channel already. And as always, this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. Be sure to visit www.fool.com/Frankel to receive the top 10 best stocks to buy now.